Hi, I'm Barry and Brandon, and this is the Stranded Knitting Discussion, episode 12? 12, I think. It's all very confusing, and I've said this before, but if I thought about it, it's not so confusing. But I did these posts that were everything I could think about for stranded knitting, and I put them up on a blog. It's before I had a video. So now that I have a video, I'm trying to do a video accompaniment, if you will, with to go with the blog. Well, I changed servers on the blog so that therefore the blog is not up anymore. So I'm now putting it back up as I do the videos. So, but I did an intro to the video, so it is one ahead of this is the next one in the stranded knitting discussion. So this one we're going to talk about catching long floats, or catching floats, not even long floats, catching floats as you go from one needle to another. And the best way I could figure out how to describe this is by describing a board fence on a country road as it turns up over around a corner. Now you're going, what is she talking about? Anyway, let's take a look at that. You'll see what I mean. This is the fencing I was telling you about. So you've seen these before. These are fences. You're driving along the road. You see these board fences going along the side of the road, and you come to a corner and it goes up and down a different road, or up a driveway or something like that. So it makes this turn. Okay, fencing rope. Now, if you take a rope and you wrap a rope around this pole and this fence post, and then you go over here and wrap it around that fence post, you can see that this rope is not going to go and follow the fence. It's going to take this shortcut across the way. So if you think about this as this is one of your needles and that's the other one of your needles. Now, of course, there's no post in between your needles like that. They're just 2 points, okay? And then if you think of the rope as being your unworked strand that is floating around the back, and as you go from your one DPN to the other, or your one circ to the other, or your half of your magic loop to the other, you are cutting across there, and you can lose tension in here or even form ladders. So let's look at the other solution, which is this right here. And this is the same thing, except you've added 2 extra posts here. So you catch it here, you catch it here, and then just before you make that turn, you catch it one more time. And as you make the turn, you may catch it one more time and then go on. That helps that float, that rope in this case, that helps that float turn the corner from one needle to the next. Okay? So what you're doing is not catching this right here. And you're going to hear me say this a couple of times, not catching it here because you've got a long float. This is a long float, but catching it here so you can tack it down before you turn that corner. Okay, does that make a little more sense? I know it's kind of silly, but it was the only thing I could think of with the board and the rope and the whole thing. So, but what we need to do, since this is a knitting podcast, you probably forgot that now, but anyway, this is a knitting podcast. We're going to look at what that whole concept does when you're knitting. So let's take a look at that one right now. All right, my pattern calls for, and this is just a made up pattern, but calls for, I've got 6 stitches left. 5 of those stitches are going to be in purple, which means that I'm going to be dragging this orange along 5. And then I have a 6. Well, let's do it this way. Let's say 4 of those stitches have to be in purple. The other 2, 1 or 2, come over here on this side. So if the orange one gets dragged behind that, there's a possibility, if it's connected way back here, there's a possibility that it's going to take the shortest distance between 2 points, and you're really going to work up, your tension that way if that is so short. So what you're trying to do, and it's like the fence example that I showed in the writing, that I'm going to try to catch that orange right before I make the turn, and that way it won't have a chance to do this stretching across the shortest distance. So let's just go, I'll put one orange, one here. All right, now let's say I've got 4 purples to go. So 1, and then
I can even do it on the last one too. And then I'm going to lean that forward, go around behind the orange, come forward, knit one more. Now, what that's done is that I've caught the orange before I make the turn. And it doesn't matter how much run. That run could have been, instead of 4 purples, it could have been 2. All you're trying to do is catch the yarn that's going to be the floater before you make the turn. And that keeps that tension even, helps prevent ladders, all that stuff that helps with, with tension when you've got tension issues. So now I've turned the corner, and I'll even anchor it one more time. You see, I've gone around behind it, anchor it one more time, even if I can, do that. So now it's good and anchored almost at every stitch in the back as I've made that turn.
All right, does that help kind of explain it knitting wise? All it does is not really catching a long float. What you're doing is just anchoring that float as you turn the corner from one needle to another, from whether you're doing DPNs or two circs, or from one end of the long needle, one section of the long needle to the other with magic loop. So, okay, hopefully that's helpful. If you've got any questions about it, let me know. Just send me a note, email it, or you can put it on my website. My website is brandonknittingdesigns.com. Also on the website is where I'm posting all of the blog posts that go along with each one of these stranded colorwork discussion things. So you can see, and those were, just so you know, those were printed, those were written probably 4 or 5 years ago now. So it was everything I could think of at that time. Unless you think that time is gone and these, you can see the light, you can see the morning light on my hand, sorry. My hand is glowing, sorry. Anyway, lest you think that these videos now are more up to date than the blog, I will tell you that sometimes I get in front of the camera and I get talking, and I'll look at, even though I read the blog before I started, I'll look at it and go, oh, I forgot to mention that. So you really kind of need to have both. Both to kind of get all the different nuances, and of course it repeats. So the more you repeat, things are repeated, the more you can get it. So anyway, that's the deal now. Next time, now this is one thing I should have checked on. Next time is either markers or yarn dominance. I forget. Oh well. You'll see. Whichever it is, I'm doing both, but I just forget which one's next. So, okay, so good. Thank you so much for joining me. I should have said this earlier. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope my goal is, I hope you get as addicted to this form of knitting as I am. I just am totally super addicted, because it's very addictive. So anyway, thanks guys. You can find me in all the usual places. The YouTube channel, on my website. My website is where you can find everything. So that's brandonknittingdesigns.com. Instagram, I'm there a lot too. So anyway, sorry, enough. All right, bye-bye.